Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The episode 109 here. We're back in action. Let's get that posture cranked up, grab ourselves a refreshment. Let's have a good show. We got some very special guests this evening. We got my brother from another mother, Drakkar Klose.
Yes.
His comeback is coming soon here in the UFC. Just got scheduled. And we got my new friend here, Father John. And I can't wait to hit some subjects with Father John here. But first, real quick, let's thank our sponsors. Phillips Law. 1 billion plus one for our clients. Trusted and recommended since 1993. Over 1,800 plus Google reviews. Official partners of the Arizona Cardinals and ASU Sun Devils. You need Phillips. Phillips Law, the best injury law firm in the world. Okay, we're back in action here. We're here with my buddy Drakkar and Father John. We'll get to an interview with Father John, and I can't wait for it here in a little bit. But first, we got Drakkar Klose. He's coming off a 2-fight win streak here. 155 pounds, coming back after his knee injury, and he's coming back stronger than ever. He got booked with Joe Solecki, and that fight, it got switched from Minneapolis to Austin.
Yes, sir.
So we got Austin, Texas versus Joe Solecki. And Drakkar's been coaching the advanced MMA squad here at the Red Hawk Academy, and it's been doing good. I mean, all our guys we're barely losing. We're barely losing. So I think Drakkar's doing a good job. I think we're doing a good job. And it seems like Drakkar's skills have went to a whole new level. In my opinion, it just looks like it, just from having to break down the techniques and having to teach people the techniques. Do you think?
Of course, like we talked the other day, like when you're on the sideline and now have to coach, you have to, break down those little details,
Yeah, and you really when you know something, I mean, you either can if you can write something down, then you probably know it, and then if you can teach it to new people or teach it to more advanced people and make it make sense, it really makes more sense in your brain. So I'm looking forward to it.
And I kind of been embracing it a little bit more because I'm a realist. My career's almost over, so and now it's the future. These next guys, and
yeah,
I think we're building a good team here. So.
Yeah, and the guys, love you and respect you a lot. And I think you're going to have a good run at the title right now. You're healthy. You have another kid on the way, but you're going to be strong. And I feel like in the past fights, you're just this 155-pound animal. People don't realize how strong you are until you grab a hold of them or until you hit him with one blitz and then you get him on the cage and people are like, holy cow, how is this guy a 155-pounder? Because sometimes you're walking around 190, 195. Now you're keeping your weight a little bit better now, but I think there's a good chance right now that you're in your prime and you're going to make a good run, and Joe Solecki is in for a beating.
Yeah, I think it's all it's all going to line up perfectly, and it starts with Joe.
Yeah. And how have you done staying positive through the ACL? Because when people blow out their ACLs or they get knee injuries, a lot of people get hooked on pain pills. They start being depressed. They start feeling sorry for themselves. But it seemed like even right after your surgery, you were back in the gym. You were doing things doing the best you can at other things. How have you been staying positive through that?
Dude, by you and coaching these guys, because they don't care if I'm injured. I still got to show up for them. Mm-hmm. So, and right before I got injured, I had to eat a whole bunch of shrooms. Mm-hmm. And I used to hate training. But, after eating those shrooms, it kind of lined everything up, and it let me know, I don't have much time. So I have to be grateful for each time I step onto that mat. And that's how I've been just carrying every day, just be thankful that I'm here, able to do this.
God, that's one thing injuries do. They really, when you come back from an injury, it makes you grateful. Because when you're injured, it's like, gosh, when you're injured, you do anything just to get back to training, get back to those hard pushes, get back to getting tired and being with all the boys. So those injuries really do make you grateful for training. And then even when you come back to training, it's easy to go back to that injury and be like, God, I just got to be thankful. Even if I got beat up this practice, I just got to be thankful I got through that practice healthy.
Yep. Even with your injuries, you got injured, but your knowledge improved so much. Mm-hmm. And now, I look up to you as a coach. So, and all that's rubbing off on me. So
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. Yeah, because I'm super thankful for you and Courtney. Without you and Courtney, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what the heck I'd be doing.
Hey, do you mind if I chime in on this?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm 61 years old, and I've been in the gym actually quite a bit. When I went back to working out in my 40s, I had one goal when I go in every day, and that was to avoid injury. Because I saw guys go in, they do something to their shoulder, do something to their back or their knee, and they're out for 6 months. So when I had a bad day, and you know what I mean by a bad day, when you go into the gym, you get under the bar, whatever you're doing, and you can't bring your full strength to bear. And so you squirm or you do something, you try and do something so you can do it. I learned just to walk away at that point. And say, I need a day off. This isn't the day. I don't want an injury, because the injury is going to keep me from coming back and working out. And I found that actually worked out very well. I went a good 3 solid years without a single injury, which I'm the only person I know that's ever done that. And admittedly, I don't know everybody that works out, but I did it regularly enough to know that by doing that, I avoided trouble. I spent more time in the gym. I made more advances. And likewise, when I got to the age where I didn't want to do any more heavy lifting because I didn't want to mess up my joints forever, it paid off in that way. So, from an older guy talking to younger guys who were much better at what you do than I ever was, for sure. But yeah, you become thankful and you actually do better.
Yeah.
You do better in the long run.
Yeah, and now, Drakkar, 33, 34, and now it's like, compared to when we were 22, 23, 24, just breaking down our body, eating like crap, training twice a day. Now I see you over there at Joe's constantly training, focusing on just taking care of your body, and the training has changed a little bit. It's weird because it's almost like your body's getting older, but your brain's getting wiser when it comes to training and stuff. How's your training been going?
Training's been great. Like you say, I think you need to break your body down when you're in your 20s, because you need to build that, repetition and all that. But when you get older, you can cut back on that. Not as much. Just play sparring. Mm-hmm. You don't have to kill yourself. We did the reps a million times. You just got to keep it sharp.
Yeah, there was this documentary that came out about the Brands brothers. That I think it's called Terry. And it came out, talks about the Brands brothers, and they go through this grueling training, just killing themselves. And then he lost in the Olympics. And then he talked to Gable, and Gable's like, hey, man, you're getting older now. Just train when you feel really good and train hard. And then get to feeling really good again and then train really hard. And he ended up switching up his training when he got a little bit older, and they ended up winning the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So I think...
You got to remember, when you're not 20 anymore, you're not 20 anymore.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I mean, it sounds dumb, but you'd be surprised how often I say that to people, young men in my church, older people in my church, to myself on a regular basis. I'm used to carrying heavy things, used to doing a lot of things. You can't do it anymore without injury, or worse, you drop something on your foot and really make it.
But I think you still got to have that mentality that you're a 20-year-old.
Yeah, it's the discipline that you've picked up over doing the grinding stuff in the early days. Yeah. But making an account for the fact that, you're a dad now, you're in your 30s, and things aren't going to be working the same as they did 10 years ago, or in my case, 40 years ago.
I know my little pecker is starting to...
It's starting to shrivel up a bit, huh? Yep. Father John probably has no issue there. You got baby number 2 on the way, Dre. How you feeling about that? I'm freaking pumped about that.
I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Kid number 2, second baby mama.
Mm-hmm. So. Congratulations on that. No, but I bet Courtney... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I bet Courtney's pumped up.
Oh, she is, dude. She's excited. We're about to actually go see him 3D today.
So. That's gonna be awesome, because, I mean, you could tell Courtney's she's gonna be a great mom. She's already a good mom to Kingston. Yep. So I'm excited for you guys. How many kids you got, Father?
I have 3 adult sons and 12 grandchildren.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, your boys went busy.
Yeah, they got 4 each.
They spreaded the seed.
And they're the oldest is like 8 and the youngest is 1.5 years. So it was all these babies coming out, which is actually very beautiful. They all get along real well together. They have a lot of fun together. And for me to see my last name is Peck. So to see all the little pecklings running around is a lot of fun. It's great fun, actually. And I see, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to see the traits of my sons coming out in their children, traits from my grandfather coming out in my grandchildren. It's a strange thing.
Oh, I bet.
But it's they say you get your gray hair from your parish and your gray beard from your children. So something to look forward to, right?
So, Father John, your religion is what?
Orthodox Christianity, like Russian Orthodoxy or Greek Orthodoxy. It's the second largest Christian body in the world, behind the Roman Catholic Church. If you go to Japan, there are Japanese Orthodox. If you go to parts of Africa, there's African Orthodox. Guatemala has 2 million Orthodox in it. And here in America, we outnumber Episcopalians 3-1, but you'd never know it. Mostly because when Orthodox Christians came to this country, they were coming as refugees. They were getting away from Islam. They were getting away from communism and under unbelievable persecution for a long time. So they pretty much just wanted to be left alone. Now, I'm not Russian or Greek or Romanian or Serbian, any of these traditional Orthodox places. I'm kind of Anglo-Saxon, But the long and the short of it is my wife and I started sort of retracing the old schism trail. What did the early church actually believe? What was their actual witness? And what did they also not believe and teach? And
were you born and raised?
Oh, no. I was a Protestant.
So you were a Protestant until what age?
College. Started actually doing research because a lot of the information we had was, the apostles died in the first century, and then Martin Luther appears in the 16th century. Well, what goes on for that 1,500 years? Well, they never talked about it, so we actually looked it up and started learning about the history of Christianity and culture, and it really impacts a lot of things. It impacts the scientific method, which was invented by Christians. It impacts culture. It impacts anthropology and a lot of other things. So I decided to try to describe it like this. Let's say you have a manual of martial arts, and you decide you're going to go to the book and you're going to try and learn it. Now, we've all studied, so you know how good that'll be, right? But you really want to work hard on it. And you practice, let's say, osotogari, one of the first leg sweeps you learn in judo. Real simple. And you get pretty good at it. But it's not going to be anything like having someone who's been taught by someone taught by the founder, who actually understands this is how you do it on the street, this is how you do it in the gym. You don't want to hurt somebody in the gym, on the street, you want to do maximum damage. You would have no idea that the appropriate way to do an osotogari is to pull someone off their balance and almost get your heel so high that you're hitting the upper part of their thigh or, frankly, in their butt crack. That is a highly effective osotogari technique. You'd never learn that from a book. Mm-hmm. But that's what most of Christianity is.
Learning from which translation?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're people who've never been to the Holy Land. They're not natural speakers of the language of the Bible, which is Greek and or Hebrew. They don't know the traditions that Christians over there have understood for a long time. And so they sort of make it up themselves. And that's why there are 40,000 different denominations. Everybody believes what they believe because they've got the Bible, but nobody agrees on anything. Mm-hmm. Well, we decided to try and understand, rather than judge history ourselves, we decided to be judged by history and look back and see, what did the early church actually do? I mean, what did those early Christians really do? There is a document, it's very well known, it's in public domain, everybody has access to it. It's called the Didache, it means the teaching of the 12 apostles. It's the first Christian catechism, probably written before the fall of Jerusalem, so around 70 AD. Very early. Some of the New Testament hasn't even been written by then. And it says what early Christians did. And I thought, this is good. Is anybody still doing this? We fast on Wednesday and Friday, not on Monday and Thursday like the Jews do. We believe that there's a way of life and a way of death, and the difference between the two is big. They're not similar to each other at all. And it goes through a lot of these things. Mm-hmm. So our question was real simple. Is anybody still doing this? We didn't expect the infant to look like the teenager. Okay, so we didn't expect the church to look identical to what we thought it might have looked at 2,000 years ago. But we wanted to know if that infant actually was still alive and just matured. And I'm talking about the church, Christianity in general. Well, that's what he found what orthodoxy is. Orthodox Christianity is primitive, patristic Christianity. And let me make this point because it's critically important. Western Christianity is all based on kind of Roman culture. And I don't mean Roman Catholic culture. Roman culture was based on the tablet of 12 laws. They had 12 laws, and Roman society was based on these laws. It was law-based. Greek society, on the other hand, was based on their preeminent value, which was wisdom. If Christianity today appeared today for the first time, it probably actually, in its original form, wouldn't be considered a religion. It would be considered a therapeutic teaching. In other words, we have a very specific anthropology. If sin is a thing, then sin breaks part of you and diseases part of you. It disintegrates the person. And grace, therefore, reintegrates the parts of the person which have been broken, which are not in place, which are not connected to each other. And it's sort of the same thing if you can imagine if your leg falls asleep. And I mean, really, you've ever had that happen when it really falls asleep?
Oh, yeah.
When you can hit it with a knife and nothing, right?
You can beat the fuck out of
You can, you can do anything you want to it. You could cut it off. You'd never know, for sure. And when you get up, it's not connecting properly. You can't sense anything from it. You have no realization that it's there. In other words, it's dead. As far as you're concerned, it's dead. And, for someone who's never, for example, been swimming, someone who's never been wet, it's impossible to describe what the ocean is like.
Yeah. So for Orthodox Christianity, what happens after we die?
According to the scriptures, after this life, there is the judgment. In other words, not who you think you are, not what you think you are, what you really are, stands before God.
And then if it's not good, where do you go?
Well, none of us are good.
If you were trying to be the best Christian possible, where do you go?
The same where everybody goes. Let me see if I can explain this clearly. We all see the sun, right? Mm-hmm. All right. But the sun doesn't change. But if I have a ball of wax and a ball of clay, and I put them in the sun, what happens?
They melt.
The wax melts. The clay hardens. Same sun, doesn't change. Okay. Same thing with our soul before God. It says in Scripture sometimes that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Why would he do that? Because he's shining his grace on Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's heart is of a quality that it hardens in God's grace rather than softens and preparing for grace. I'll give you another example. Let's say, because this is a very important distinction, we don't believe that hell is a place of pitchforks and demons spanking people and things like that.
People partying, doing coke.
Oh my gosh, no.
Unknown caller.
What the? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I was going to say,
Who's calling?
I think Earth is hell.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We are hell.
Now imagine this. You're that same sun that we are illumined by, through which we see everything by. Let's say you're standing at sunrise across a snowy landscape. All right? And the window opens and you get all of that sun and all that reflection right into your eyes. What do?
Kind of turn away a little
Right,
bit.
you're blinded. You're snowblind. And it starts to cry and you're in pain. Same sun that illumines everything. But now here's the thing. If your soul is cleansed by the grace of Christ and you've learned to love God and your neighbor more than yourself, more than the world, more than food, more than booze, more than sex, then the presence of God shines on you and it illumines you. It lights you up.
And it hardens you up.
Yeah.
Like
now,
clay.
if you have an animalistic life, you turn away from God. You turn away from His revelation. You turn away from you use people like you use, tissue paper or objects. Then when you actually stand before God and find out who you are, it's not going to be pleasant. It's going to be painful.
So will it be the same kind of painfulness if you're going through life and you're trying to make other people better, you're treating your body healthy, you're really doing a lot of good, but you don't have that particular belief in that religion?
Oh, it's the same for everybody. And the scriptures are very clear about this. God consigns all to condemnation because we sin. Okay, so once you sin, you're no longer perfectly clean. You're no longer perfect. You're already dysfunctional. Okay, and the only way to be re-functional, to be made functional again, is to be recreated. Any of you guys know Dennis Rogers? He's a strongman, and he would often in his shows he would take a frying pan and he would roll it up in his hands. And he's like 5'8", very powerful guy. And he would say, look, this frying pan can no longer fulfill the purpose and function for which it was made. It's now distorted. It's impossible. The only way that it can return to being what it was supposed to be from the beginning was to be sent back to the manufacturer and recreated. And we call this being born again. It's not I have an emotional experience. It's being recreated in the image of God. This is why people say, well, you have to be perfect to get in heaven. Nobody's perfect. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Christ was the only perfect person, and it's only in participating in his life that we are healed, that we are reintegrated. That's why Christians would rather die terrible death than change the faith by a single letter. Because when you distort the truth, let me put it this way, 99% whipped cream and 1% cow manure is still a dessert you don't want to eat.
Yeah, unless you're really hungry.
Yeah, but you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
No matter what happens, you're going to get sick. Well, we put 1% strychnine. That'll kill you fast. It looks good, tastes good, smells good, but it'll kill you. Mm-hmm. It's the same with everything else. If you want to stand before, and let me put it this way, so that everybody understands. Everyone's going to live forever. Not everyone's going to enjoy it. The purpose of Christianity is to heal the soul so that people can spend eternity in happiness and joy.
Can the soul be healed and stuff without the Christianity? Is it possible?
It's impossible.
And then,
So do you have to be baptized?
Yes, because that's being born again.
okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Born by water and the Spirit.
And then,
And by the way, that's not a big deal. That's something that the Christians have taught from the very beginning. So people often say to me, especially today, we have social problems today that nobody's ever had to deal with before. I said, that's not true at all. You look at ancient culture, nothing could be farther from the truth. We're exactly where we used to be. Look, I was born this way. Yeah, that's why, and I was born a way too, but that's why you have to be born again.
And is that, well, I'm going to go back to this first. Is because I was raised Jehovah's Witness until like 8th grade, and they have the pre-picked 144,000 that's going to go to heaven and help.
My great grandma fell for that.
Really, and then the rest will be the judgment day will come, and then there'll be a paradise on earth.
Right. Originally, there was no leftover. There was only 144,000. But when they ended up with more than 144,000 Jehovah's Witnesses, they had to change that.
To twist it up. The circuit, I don't know, is it the circuit overseers or the governing body? The governing body that has to change that. So for the Orthodox Christian, if you go to heaven on that judgment day, are you going to keep all your memories or will you be cleansed of the memories?
Oh no, you are who you are. There's no mind wipe. You bear everything with you. This is why guarding your senses is so important. Mm-hmm. This is what we tell young men and young women today especially. Don't fall for the porn trap. I mean, everybody experiments, but
That's hard.
Yeah.
as soon as you go down there, when you're away from it, you're assailed by all those images. And that affects your interior life. See, this is about the interior life and not about being good or being nice or being pious. This is about being watchful, being clean, being healthy. When you're young, you can eat like crap. You can work out the wrong way all the time, and you can make gains.
Yeah.
But over time, eating like crap will get to you.
And in the Orthodox Christian, do they talk about eating healthy
Oh,
or treating your body healthy?
Oh my gosh, we fast almost literally half the year.
And then when you're not fasting, what are you eating? Donuts?
When we can. My wife is it looked like I eat a lot, but my wife is a French chef, so that's part of my excuse. But also, I have some grandchildren that are very gluten sensitive. They don't break out in hives, but their behavior gets kind of erratic. So she has to make a lot of gluten-free things like gluten-free donuts, which, by the way, are better than regular donuts. And
I like them.
yeah, I mean, the recipes are quite good, and gluten-free cupcakes also very excellent. But we have to go out of our way to make sure that the kids have as little of that as possible.
What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Eggs.
3.
2.
2 eggs.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you guys distribute the money? Is it like 90-10? 90 to the pastor, 10 to the church?
I wish.
95, baby.
I keep telling people, if I did a Joel Osteen, I would be driving a Bentley for sure. I'd have a
Hey,
Bentley.
there's
on
some
order.
pastors out there doing it.
I know.
Almost.
We call them frauds. Okay? And let me be very clear about this. Okay? When I was younger, as trying to be an honest man, it's all you can do, right? I gave the benefit of the doubt to a lot of these guys, but I started to actually meet some of them. They're all frauds, every single one of them. When you have a guy that says, I saw this plane on sale and I just had to buy it, so you don't have to buy a plane. You can sit in coach like everybody else. Here, sit in first class. Nobody's going to judge you for that. Well, I need to. They make excuses of every variety. No, they're frauds. Under my bishop.
What's the average salary?
For the ones that are balling. Like,
My-
because there's a lot. Not yours.
Most Orthodox priests don't get paid.
How do you make money?
We work. I'm a graphic designer. Unfortunately, I'm 61. So I don't have an agent. I don't have an agency, and everything I do gets by word of mouth. But I was lucky enough I started designing websites when there were literally just a couple hundred on the internet. So I have lots of experience. I'm very, very fast. But those days are ending. I'm not going to be able to do that. Others are involved in computers. Some large Orthodox churches do pay their priests. But to be honest, most of us
Work.
yeah. Imagine that. It's like St. Paul. He's a tent maker. He had to pay his own way through. Now, interestingly about this, the Bible specifically says, Jesus said, those who preach the gospel should get their living by the gospel. Because this is a thing he wants done. But we don't make use of those rights because we want to spread the faith. We want to plant more churches, and we can't wait for a church to have 100 families and plenty of barbecues, fundraisers. We've got to get work done.
Do a lot of churches, because I think, do a lot of churches require a percentage of people's income? Not Orthodox Christian, but
No. Well, if you look at cults, yes, they do. The Mormons require 10%. The Unification Church, the Moonies, they require a third. So most Moonies are business people because they can't survive otherwise.
Of your whole income.
Your whole income, gross
Dang.
income.
Dang, they counting pockets.
Right, right. Now, in our church, what we teach is this. There's the Old Testament standard and the New Testament standard. Now, the New Testament standard is a fuller revelation, right? Therefore, New Testament righteousness must exceed Old Testament righteousness. Well, if tithing, giving 1/10 of your income to the church, is the Old Testament standard, which it is, then the Christian standard must be a tithe plus 1. I mean, make it silly, but what you're saying is you're exceeding Old Testament giving just by $1. But you're doing it. You're doing it. And it suddenly becomes very easy. And places where not everybody is able to do that, of course. It takes some faith to do that. But the three legs of the table of Christian spirituality, the foundation of spirituality is based on what are the enemies of the soul? The enemies of the soul are the world, the flesh, and the devil. Okay? We combat the devil through prayer. The interior life lives in a spiritual medium. The soul lives in a spiritual medium. And people have a spiritual experience and think everything spiritual is good. That's like going to Detroit and noticing that the Montrose Jazz Festival is fantastic. The Renaissance Center is beautiful. All this culture and all this beauty. And then you wander into Highland Park and realize I'm in real danger.
You from Michigan?
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same
Somebody
him,
said
a
you
Michigan
started-
brother.
Yeah. What up, brother?
Really?
Yeah. South Haven.
Go Lions, baby. Yeah.
They're doing it.
I spent most of my time in
You a pimp, man. Come on.
What?
You from Michigan. I know you smooth. You a smooth talker.
That's the truth, baby.
Yeah, you a smooth talker. You from Detroit.
You know, when I went to Kodiak, because I went to seminary in Alaska, I went to the DMV there, and you take the Alaskan driver's test to get a license because you have to do it. And every person there is from Michigan. And I constantly meet people where everybody in the office is from Michigan, something like that. It's funny. Yeah, I guess we're a great underground success. We're all over the place.
Yeah,
It takes
for real.
care of it. But what I was going to say is the world, the flesh, and the devil. You fight the devil through prayer. You fight the flesh through fasting to not satisfy its needs. And then you fight the world, materialism, through generous giving. And those are literally the ABC kindergarten level spiritual disciplines that every person has to master. If you're a master of prayer and you can fast on bread and water the whole year, but you're not generous, you're just a selfish pig that's on a great diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very important part of what we do. Now, in my parish, this is what we teach, and it's small. It's like 80 people. Yeah, I mean, I haven't ordered my Bentley yet, so something
It's
to
on its way.
look forward to. I wish.
So was there any?
You just don't want the IRS to come get you.
They are always around, and they don't like churches. So
Was there any point in like history where Orthodox Christians and stuff had multiple wives?
no. In fact, it's through Christian influence that Jews no longer have multiple wives.
Oh.
I think it was in the 11th century in Germany, Rabbi Gershom declared that Jewish men could only have one wife from then on, or they'd be excommunicated. And what's the influence of that? The teachings of Christ that they were made man and woman. The Old Testament has many, many wives, but that there would be one wife and one husband, and they should love each other.
So
and
they have a
I see
primary.
this work itself out, by the way. I'm familiar with Andrew Tate. I'm familiar with a lot of the things he's gone through. But you know what? One woman.
Yep, a primary.
Because that's what got him in trouble. Those women turned on him.
So
and
if
he
you
went to
could
jail.
have two women, you could be married to two. You wouldn't do it.
No.
Yeah. Well, what
First
about?
of all, women are expensive. And I tell my wife, don't worry, honey, I can't afford another woman. And you know what her response is? And I'm going to make sure you can never afford another woman.
What about? Gosh, damn, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Mormons. Because Mormons, where's their belief? Because some of them have tons of wives.
Yeah, Mormons aren't Christians.
Okay, they're not
Mormons aren't
Christians,
Christians,
and they have. There's some law in there, and they get those ladies on board, and they have multiple wives.
It's just like Islam. Joseph Smith was able to not only have many wives, but he said that Mormons could only have like 4 or something. But he could have as many as he wanted, and included other people's wives. Yeah, that's not holy. That's just being a pig.
That's horny.
Right. There's nothing holy about that.
Yep.
No prophet did that. And it's the same with Islam. Muhammad had 14 wives, including women that were almost babies. It's okay for him, but Muslims can only have 4. It said, laws for thee, but not for me. That's not the Christian way.
Yeah.
Christian way is, give you an example. In our church, a married man, can become a priest. But if my wife dies or divorces me, I can never remarry. One wife, because Christ has one church. Israel is his beloved. He doesn't have many loves. His humanity is his desire, and particularly the church. So we take our bishops not from among married men, but from monks, because our monasteries are the Johns Hopkins universities of our interior tradition. If you want a person who is a high level, like neurosurgeon level person of the spiritual life, you go to the monasteries and you get those men, because that's what they're studying all day long. Mm-hmm. And those are the men who become our bishops, so that they can sustain that tradition. And by the way, today, unfortunately, Orthodox Christianity is the only church that is able to maintain its moral tradition. Everything's gone by the wayside. Evangelicalism has gotten woke. Don't even start me on the Roman Church, which we consider the first Protestant church. But this is why we are inundated with people your age, young families, young men, that understand that men should be men. Masculinity isn't toxic. Masculinity is what built and sustains civilization. Yep. And the problem often is that we've oprahfied men, turn them into pajama boys, and women think they need to be, if you'll forgive me for saying it, bitch bosses. Mm-hmm. None of them, even the ones that want to get married, want to be a wife. Yeah. And that's a very high calling, very specific. But when a husband and a wife love each other, and that is the galvanized cell of civilization. And if it doesn't return, our civilization is within 2 generations of disappearing, breaking down.
Can't find a wife at a strip club.
No,
that's right.
We got some questions here on Patreon, so they don't have to be super long either, because there's quite a few of them. But
this one's remind me to give short answers.
Yeah.
I talk for a living, so I apologize in advance.
No, I like it. Chris Polanco, Father John, thoughts on tattoos? Are they a sin?
Tattoos are not a sin. They're part of a pagan tradition. So generally speaking, you sort of put the marks of your God on. However, I know priests that have giant crosses tattooed on them. And I also know that in Egypt, the Copts all have crosses either on their foreheads or on their hands, so that if they ever even think of apostatizing, they're reminded, you have to kill me to separate me from Christ, and that will just unite us. So they're very, like in Ethiopia, you'll see women with crosses tattooed right on the forehead. And that's one of the oldest churches in the world. Now, my sons all have tattoos. I don't have tattoos. I use the excuse, well, you don't put a bumper sticker on a Rolls Royce. But the reality is that I just don't like needles. Mm-hmm. So, but we have many people in our church who have tattoos, and you don't have to have them all scrubbed before, it's like hairstyle today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dre.
I was going to ask, do you smoke a little weed?
I don't know.
Oh. Any drugs that you like?
Pharmaceuticals. I don't participate in anything that would cause me to lose my discipline and control.
Like, what about caffeine?
I have a Coke a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink coffee, but not because it's got caffeine. It just tastes bad. It's made out of beans, It's crazy. Anyway, caffeine, you got to watch any addiction. So tobacco, liquor, drugs, weed.
Porn is mine.
Yeah.
You're battling with the devil there, and everyone's having it.
I can help you, because I've gotten men
I actually just quit smoking weed too last night, so I need you to pray for me. This week's going to be rough for me.
Hey, let's talk afterwards. I can help you.
100%.
The thing is that none of these things, people tend to look at this stuff as, I'm completely hopeless. I'm down a rabbit hole so far, there's no way for me to dig out. And to be honest, it's such a far thing, I don't even want to think about digging out of it. It's a complete lie.
Yep.
Do you ever see the movie Undercover Brother?
Yep.
Okay, Undercover Brother, he goes into the he's going to meet the brotherhood the first time, and he goes into the barbershop, right? And the guy clicks the button, and all of a sudden, and he's falling down, and there's lights, and there's a fan and everything, and he's dropped down like 6 feet. He's only 6 feet down. But because of the fan and because of the lights, he thought he was dropping down like a quarter mile. Okay, that's what addiction does to you. You think you're a mile down. You're just 6 feet down. Mm-hmm. Now, if you jump into a 6-foot grave, you can't get yourself out most of the time. If you're my height, especially, I'm 5'6". Okay, but with a little help, you can get out. But it's not digging a mile out of it. I assure you, I've been a priest for almost 30 years. Okay, I've seen.
Do people confess to you?
Oh yes, and that's heavy. But,
I bet.
But the grace of God is that you remember the advice you gave them, but you don't remember the sin. Thank God.
So
You would be like, oh, I got to be careful about that guy.
because you got to go to the cops at some point if something's too messed
He's going to
up.
rob the church.
Stuff like that, you see, you can't have absolution. Your sins aren't remitted
Yeah.
unless you go and confess.
Um.
Yeah, when I say there's nothing new under the sun, believe me, we have canons and instructions that go back 1,800 years, and those are the prescriptions we use in confession. And believe me, they're as apt today as they are any other time. Human beings haven't changed.
Yeah, because I mean, I consider myself a pretty healthy guy. I try to eat good foods. I mean, probably 90-10, 80-20. I'm eating good foods. I'm staying in good shape. I care about my body, and I do enjoy a little bit of vaporized cannabis herb in the nights, and it makes me feel good. It makes me get creative, and I'm not addicted to it. I haven't smoked for now 4 or 5 days because I've been sick, but I really enjoy it, and I think it benefits my health.
And it might. It might. You have to remember that cannabis is just it's a weed. The problem with it, of course, is that the abuse of it, the addiction to it, and worse, the cannabis today is not the cannabis of the 1960s.
Fuck, true.
It is way more potent, dangerously more potent.
Yeah.
So all that aside, what I'm saying is this: when you're in a position where, if you wear the wrong color socks, in my position, everybody notices. If you do something wrong, if you smell like coffee, if you smell like weed, if you smell like bourbon, it doesn't matter why you do that. It doesn't matter what you were doing with the previous 3 hours trying to save someone's life. People assume you've made a mistake. So you have to be always very cautious. You have to avoid even the image of impropriety.
We gotta. I mean, you're more than welcome to come train here, but we gotta get you in shape.
I would love that. It's been a long, long time. Like I said, I haven't done it for a while, partly because I'm old. But you'll be happy to know, in spite of this, because my wife's a good chef.
Yeah.
I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have any heart trouble. I'm actually, I wouldn't say I'm in decent shape, but I don't have any medical problems from being overweight.
What kind of pharmaceuticals do you enjoy?
Ibuprofen for my shoulder.
Shoulder injury.
Yeah. Benadryl.
Perkies.
No. NyQuil when I had COVID. That's what helped me sleep, actually. But I'll tell you, I coughed so hard when I had COVID.
Pooped yourself?
No. I threw some ribs out of a place, and they've never returned. Yeah, so I really can't spar anymore.
Yeah, the ribs are brutal.
You need to go see a chiropractor.
Yeah.
Maybe they could put it back in.
The doctors I talked to said, "Is it just pain?" I said, "Yeah, it's just pain." He goes, "Okay, well, there's not really anything we can do about it."
So how did you find out? I mean, we got some more questions here, so it doesn't
Yeah,
have to
let's
be,
go.
Doesn't have to be a long one, but how did you find out about Andrew Tate?
I live on planet Earth, and
The YouTube or the Instagram?
not Instagram.
I'm about to say, if you're on Instagram, I know you sinning.
No,
Let me see that search feed.
no Instagram, no TikTok. But here, let me give you a good example of what I think being a man is. 'Cause that's a simple thing.
Yep.
It's not judging anybody. My wife asked me one time, "Can I see your phone?" Absolutely, anytime you want. Aren't you worried about your privacy? What privacy?
Who is Jasmine?
This is my wife. This is my wife. This is the mother of my children. If I'm in the hospital paralyzed, I know she will advocate for me like a rabid dog.
Yep.
She treats me like a king. She feeds me like I'm Orson Welles. I'm not going to get there eventually, but I have the best possible life. Of course she can look at anything she wants. Now, she's aware that people will talk to me sort of in private and in confidence. and that sometimes that comes over with texts. I don't care. She's a priest's wife. She can look at anything she wants anytime. I don't have anything to worry about. See, when you don't lie, you don't have to remember anything.
You ever had a member hit on you?
Oh yeah.
Well, when say you're with
That's
your wife.
desperation, right?
Say you're with your wife and you walk by a female and she's got phenomenal butt cheeks, phenomenal boobs, and it just something in you is wanting to just look. Would you say that's Satan working?
I would say this. The first look is nature. The second look is sin.
So that first look, you better make it a long one.
Well, no. See, but if you're glaring, that's a second look.
So what you got to do is look over here, and you know she's gonna walk that way. So she's gonna
But I'll tell you
Or
this
crack your
also,
back.
and there's a great advantage here. And of course, I know you guys are younger than me. I'm the old man here, right? I apologize, but there's a point at which in your interior life you notice people, but you don't. You would notice that a woman is a woman, but you wouldn't have that instant checking her out sense. And the best place to practice that is on a college campus.
Oh God, I hate it.
So right, because you go out there, you are assailed by breasts and butts.
Yep.
Right. Okay. When you can walk on a college campus and notice women, but not notice that they are women, okay, then you're okay. That's when you're there. Plus, my wife is very.
You're
beautiful.
bull crapping me, Father.
No,
John.
no.
You just have shades on.
Young priests have a hard time until they get to this level of interior mastery. I know it sounds crappy and stupid, and it's not because our testosterone is low. I assure you, it's a struggle for everybody.
Holy hell.
When I hear people's confessions, I have to remind them, listen, you're struggling with lust. Guess what? That's part of being a man. Until the last nails in your coffin, we all do. The question is, at what point does the struggle take place? Okay, this is short, I promise.
Yeah.
But there's different stages of temptation. The final stage of temptation is what we call prepossession. You're so used to doing the sin that the moment between being aware of the temptation and doing it is so tiny that
And is that wisdom? What the?
Oh, that's the planned FEC alert. Everybody's getting
It says
that
this is
today.
the test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. The purpose is to maintain and improve alert warning capabilities.
I knew that would
Okay.
come on during their interview.
Yeah, right when we're talking about the butt cheeks.
Anyway, so the first part of a temptation is what's called disturbance. It has not formed a mental image in your mind yet, but you're aware of whatever it is going to tempt you, right? Until a temptation forms a mental image, you are not culpable for any sin. There's no sin until you form a mental image. A beautiful girl walks by you and you're immediately undressing her in your mind, you're culpable of that sin. But you can catch yourself. And we have interior techniques called watchfulness, the techniques of watchfulness, which allow you to catch yourself earlier and earlier, and you're no longer a slave to that sin. See, a lot of things like pornography and other types of things are just habits of mind. Once you make that turn off, you know where you're going. You just don't have the techniques to turn back.
Yeah, that's the.
I've got to go through the ghetto because there's no instant on-ramp back to my regular life. I assure you that is a lie. I don't just do this myself, and I'm not even the expert at it. I deal with young men, young women, and people of every age in every situation, and I'm telling you these work. People are able to extract themselves from the worst kinds of interior slavery, and when they're free, and you know what it is to be free of a problem, free of something that you've been struggling with, it is liberty at the highest degree. You'll never turn back to it.
So I have it. Say a kid revving with testosterone. He has it busted in 5 days, and this girl looks him up and down, and just is like, you can tell she's horned up too. He's horned up. What's the first step to just swerving to the right?
Run.
God, it's hard, Father.
Yes, I know that. I was a young man once. I went to Michigan State University. 20,000 beautiful women.
Horny.
And horny. And I'm telling you, the entire Big Ten would come there on weekends to scan the chicks. And we were around them all the time. Now, when I met my wife...
So you weren't getting buck wild back then?
No.
Here and there.
I met my wife. I proposed to her in a month. I was crazy in love.
How long you have been married?
38 years.
It's impressive.
And we were engaged for 4 years. I wanted to go through college and do it right. I should have just got married and lived in married housing. Would have been much better. It would have been much less torture.
You had been sneaking over. And
Oh, so you met her in college?
I met her in college, yeah.
Did you?
First year.
Did you guys, I mean, I don't want to get personal, but did you guys have intercourse before marriage, or did you wait?
Please don't ask me
Yeah,
personal questions like
sorry,
that.
sorry.
I don't want to do anything to dishonor my wife one way or the other.
Of course.
She is she was a godsend in many ways. And as I say, I chased her till she caught me.
So what happens, would you say if a couple, because you agree that someone should wait until marriage to have
Sure.
sex.
Exclusively when possible.
And when they do, and then the sex just isn't good, and they don't connect like they thought, what do you do?
Well, what do you do if you try a new technique on the mat and it doesn't work the first time?
Practice. Well, that's a good answer there.
Well, look, here's the secret.
But not all of them are trainable.
Hold on. You know what the secret about sex is? It's not special. It's common. Everybody's doing it. There's nothing special about sex. You know what is special?
Giving a girl orgasm.
Your woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that person is the special one. Now, here's the other thing. We know statistically, just statistics, but in orthodoxy, we deal with reality, not what we hope it is. Okay, I want to make this very clear. When you look at statistics and you got a girl that's got a body count, even of 5 or 6, which by today's standards is low.
Which is crazy, right?
She's got a 60% chance of divorcing in her first 2 years.
Really?
Sure.
With the 5 to 6 body count.
Right.
Holy.
You know why? Because she's constantly comparing, just like we do.
Yep.
Well, guess what? Guess who the most satisfied, happy people are in their sex life and in their relationships?
Virgins.
Yes. You know why? They have to learn together.
That's all they know.
And they get better and better at it.
And they don't have Jamal from down the street who has just a huge piece.
Right. What are you comparing to? The person you love.
Yep.
You know, I mean, if you want to buy a giant, forgive me, I don't mean delicate here, but if you need a giant cucumber, go get a giant cucumber. The problem is that we've equated experience with nobility or with virtue. It's not true. It's not true at all. And here's the thing: if you want a good relationship between a man and a woman, they've got to really invest in that relationship. They can't sit back and go, well, that wasn't so good. Well, at least this guy was trying harder, or this guy looked better, or, this guy's butt I like better, whatever. That constant comparison means you are not committed. You're not all in. And you've got to be all in a marriage.
And it makes it hard because, especially nowadays with Instagram and all that stuff, as soon as you get in a disagreement and then you're on Instagram, there's going to be a guy hitting on you. There's going to be a guy giving you what you don't want. So in this day and age, I just think it's way harder.
It's not way harder. It's just lots more opportunities for guys to be dogs and for women to satisfy themselves in saying, somebody else likes me. He doesn't like you. He just wants to use you and abuse you.
He just thinks your ass is
throw
fat.
you away.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He says he doesn't like you as a person. He doesn't like your personality. He doesn't want to handle you any more than anybody else wants to handle you. He just is looking for a partner for the night or for the moment. And this is the problem. With pornography, any young man can see more beautiful women than any ancient king. And ancient kings had thousands of concubines, thousands of wives. Solomon had 1,000 wives and thousands of concubines. And yet a 12-year-old kid who has unfettered access to the internet can see more beautiful women than he ever did. You think this is good? You think this is healthy? And honestly, you do good work here, all right? There's no amount of training. There's no amount of training on the mat that's going to make up for what he's doing to himself inside.
Well, especially 5, 6 years old, their brain's developing, and they're seeing these women get treated this way. They can see any sexy woman, any race that they want, doing anything at that age.
And I'll tell you, the result of it is the perfect example of this, and I'm dead serious, is Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner lives in a mansion with all these beautiful women who will do anything he wants. And how is he ending up his life? He's sitting in the corner watching gay porn, masturbating.
Turns you gay. It'll turn you gay.
Wait,
I've heard of that. No, I've heard of that. That
Yes.
if you watch too much porn, it'll lead you to a gay.
I better stop.
No, he's unfortunately right, because what you need is something more and more extreme for stimulation.
You're into that third session.
You're
the
way
third
out
bust.
there.
You're going to be getting into some shit.
So
I'm not that deep.
This obviously isn't the normal conversation for Orthodox priests on podcasts. So
Yes,
let me start there by saying that. But let me say this, I say this with decades of experience. You're not in prison. You're not trapped. There's a way out, and it's not easy, but it's not the existential crisis that people think it is. They've convinced us that it's impossible to break out of. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be. It's as difficult as getting out of the deep end when you don't know how to swim. Scary at first, but you'll get out and you'll live. So, and every addiction is that way. Yes, there's some part of you that has to die, but that's the part that should have been dead earlier anyway.
I mean, that's great stuff, Father John. This question here is for Drakkar. Is 24 too old to start a career in martial arts? And if it isn't, what is the best way I can protect my brain health?
I mean, if you come from a background of something, 24 isn't. I think I started around 24, 25.
Mm-hmm. You had the background wrestling and competing.
Wrestling and boxing are very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. I studied judo and aikido on into my 30s. Well, when you're short like me and you have short arms, unless you're as tough as Rocky Marciano, there's no point in getting a fist match, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a question for you. I shouldn't talk.
No, I like it.
I think 24 is good.
Did you compete?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were you good?
I was fast.
Fast twitch.
As my father said to me, and my dad, we didn't find out till my dad was dead that he actually did a lot of special forces type stuff. He said, listen, it doesn't matter if they're stronger than you, or they're faster than you, or they're better than you. Are you faster than they think you are? Are you better than they think you are? Are you stronger than they think you are? You'll win. Mm-hmm. If they underestimate you, you'll win.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah, I spent most of my time running away from fights. So
let's make this one a little bit short because you could probably go off on this one for a long. This is Nick Bonsella. What are some tips that help you stay grounded in your life while external factors like social media try to manipulate your thoughts and actions?
Cut off access to anything that manipulates you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And let me say this. I had a girl come to me once say, when I read science fiction novels, they consume my mind. What do? I said, stop reading, period, cut off. Well, nobody's ever told me that before. I said, but anything gets between you and God has to go, period. You don't save it, you get rid of it. And if you know you're being influenced poorly by social media, get off social media. If it's the news is all propaganda today. Don't watch it. Yep. Whatever is influencing you so that you don't have freedom to actually make decisions yourself, get rid of it now. You'll be happier. You'll be much happier.
That's good. Ryan from Patreon here. Drakkar, how do you typically prepare mentally before a fight to ensure you're in the right mindset?
Just making sure I do everything right. Eating right, sleeping right, just doing everything the best I can.
Yeah, making sure you're prepared. I mean, literally, it sounds so cliche, but your confidence is going to come from your training. It really is. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of a training camp, when you're completely out of shape, you're 30 pounds overweight, you're like, holy shit. But if you literally trust the process, you know by the time the fight comes and you do everything right, you're going to be ready to go. Yep. I mean, there's always going to be that doubt, though. There's rarely going to be a fight where you're just, nope, not nervous at all. Don't really feel any emotions. But
that heightened sense also makes you
getting you ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And I love what you said. Trust the process. When you have a process that actually is effective, whatever it's in, whether it's the interior life or training for martial arts, if the process is good, you trust the process. People got to be reminded of that today. We're so overly individualistic that when you're in a good process, trust it. That's I wanted to highlight. You said something very wise there, really, really important. Trust the process.
And this is also outside of fighting. What hobbies or interests do you have that help you relax and unwind?
Right now, really just coaching,
Playing with King.
but you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard because, you know, this journey, you have to put all your time into it.
Yeah.
I think once I'm retired, I can have other things to do, but right now, everything's either coaching or fighting.
How about you, Father John? What are you into besides, okay, say you just got done on a Sunday and your work's done, and what are you turning on the tube? Or what kind of stuff are you doing?
Collapse. I have a post-liturgical nap. I go home and my wife feeds me something and I lay down for a nap, seriously. And it's not because I'm 60. I thought when I was young, oh, these old priests, look at them, they just can't take it anymore. When I have delivered my sermon and I've given communion, and my sermon is not from notes, it's from everything that I've memorized for the week, my brain is pudding at that point. You can ask me anything, I could probably answer you, but I won't remember any of it. And then I go home and rest. My wife doesn't cook on Sunday, so my son usually does, and he's very good, so we eat real well. But I have a giant garden at home, and my grandfather was a farmer, so I do a lot of gardening, a lot of raised bed gardening. I'm always interested in trying to figure more of that out. When I lived in Prescott, I had like 25 chickens, and chickens are more entertaining than the internet, let me tell you. If you've got 25 chickens, you just go out and watch them all day. It's hilarious.
Have a good time.
I'm telling you, it's hilarious. Little things like that. I'm an artist, so I do stuff like that. I have a lot of different activities that I have to multitask on, so I can go from one thing to another, and it's usually very different from the last thing, and that's very refreshing. Winston Churchill was good at this. When he needed a break and he needed rest, he didn't take a nap. He went out and he painted a painting, or he went out and built a wall. That was more refreshing for him than actually resting. And this is something we forget. Recreation isn't always just playing and sleeping. Sometimes it's just doing something that is so different from what we normally do. It restores us much faster. And that's, for me, those are the little things. Plus, I've got lots of grandchildren crawling all over me, asking for M&Ms and other stuff like that. So I have plenty to distract myself.
Trying to take your M&Ms.
No. I have them in my bedroom. If they're good, I'll give them some. So they're always telling me when they were good. They want M&Ms constantly. Okay. And there is my wife in there eating them while they're watching her eat. And go, yeah, ask Papa for some. It's okay.
Drakkar, would you want to rematch Dariush one day? How do you see it playing out, and what adjustments would you make going into that rematch?
Of course, hopefully, 2 more fights, I can rematch him. Just go in there and do the same thing, just be a little bit more calm.
Mm-hmm. Once you hurt him.
Yep.
Once you hurt him, for sure. Okay, here we go. We got a lot of deep questions here. We'll have to have Father John on another day, and we'll go through the deep
I'll answer
questions.
short, I promise.
Here we go. How about this for Drakkar? How to protect your joints? Any specific mobility exercises for your knees and elbows that you do now?
It's a lot of stretching. Make sure you get up every day, stretch.
You've been doing some moving first thing in the morning?
Just moving. Yeah, I'll get up, go walk for an hour, do my stretching, do a little bit of lifting. Then I'll get my day started.
That's good. That's good. A lot of these questions here we kind of already answered. Father John, how would you recommend choosing a girlfriend or partner in today's world? What specific values or traits should us Jobans be looking for in chicks?
That's the $64,000 question. Well, first of all, you date for a mate. Number one, if you're actually serious, don't mess around with anything else. Don't waste your time and energy on anything else. Look for a mate, and that means you're looking for a wife, a woman that wants to be a wife. A lot of girls today have grown up with mothers that didn't want to be wives or were terrible wives. But there's a resurgence of women that want to learn, that want to be wives. Trad wife, Pearl, you've seen her, I'm sure. She talks about this a lot. She actually is taking wife lessons, which to me is almost silly, but I understand. She really wants to be a good wife. If you find a woman that actually wants to be a wife, not just get married, you're 90% there. You're 90% there. Compatibility matters a little bit, and you don't have to have the same hobbies or anything. You do want to have the same kind of goals, though. You want to look forward to the same kind of life. And remember this, I say this to young men all the time. Please remember, the woman does not want to be the adventure. She wants to go on your adventure. So have an adventure worth going on. But look for a wife because that's the person.
It's going to cook you snacks.
That's the person that's going to take care of you when you're down, when you're in pain. She's going to be there. She's going to protect the integrity of your house and your children. She's not going to be led astray by, Tony the pool boy.
Jamal.
Right. Yeah. It's going to, she's all in. And they're not impossible to find. But again, you're not going to find them at the strip club. You're not going to find them at meat markets. You've got to go to places where girls like this go.
Coffee shop.
Coffee shop. Colleges,
bookstore.
Colleges actually are quickly becoming a non-issue. There's so much terrible activity going on in colleges. Of course, I recommend church, but not every church is safe. Some churches are crazy.
Tinder,
no, no. If a girl is on Tinder, if a girl has Instagram or OnlyFans, run. Because the benefit for you is diminishing. If she marries you for a day, she can take half your stuff.
But what if they're only selling feet pics?
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of narcissism still involved in that. You might say, okay, she's very creative and she's being modest to a certain extent. Let's say my best advice would be play that by ear, but talk to your spiritual father.
Like that.
For safety's sake. For safety's sake. Because you might say, God, this girl, she's so pretty. She's so nice. She's so this and that. We always have a tendency to see what we want and overlook what we don't want. An outside person might say that this girl's, there's no giant warning flags. Some might say, this girl has red alarms all over her. Stay away. Stay away. Run. Actually, stay completely away.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of circumstances where those things are. I often have people say to me, Father John, should I pursue a relationship with this girl? Should I marry this girl? Should I marry this guy? I said, don't ask me that question. If I say yes, marry them, and it's a terrible marriage, you blame me. Mm-hmm. And if I say don't marry them, and you marry someone else, and that's terrible, and you said I should have married, Jimmy back in the day, and you told me no, that's my fault too. People love to avoid responsibility, but don't expect. Even I, who am happily married for all this time, can tell you it was a lot of work putting our relationship together.
Like I want to marry Courtney, but for me, it's like I just don't want that paperwork. It feels like females change once that paperwork.
They do.
So
that's why cohabitation is so dangerous.
Would you recommend prenups?
They're worthless. Do you know how many prenups actually hold up in court?
How many?
Statistically, 0.
Really?
Yeah. Statistically. I mean, it's a tiny percentage, and it's always with $1 million people. Otherwise, there's always a way out of it. So you think you're getting security out of it, but in fact, you're fooling yourself.
My whole thing is like, why do I have to let the government, like if I love someone, I don't need to do all that paperwork.
Right. But marriage isn't government paperwork.
Then what is it? Don't you have to go to the city courthouse or the?
No, see, in the church we believe this is the purpose of humanity is to have healthy marriages, and so it's not. If I often have people say, "Well, Father, we've lived together for a couple of years. We're just trying out marriage." I said, "You guys actually are the ones that are more likely to divorce within a year, 18 months, because you think cohabitating is marriage, but the minute you marry, what do? You start acting like a husband. You start acting like a wife. Hey, this isn't the person I was living with before. Of course not, because cohabitating is not the same as marriage. People always will act different because they're growing into the role. And if that's uncomfortable, guess what? 18 months later, gone.
Bye-bye.
I've seen people cohabitate for 15, 20, 30 years, get married, divorce 2 years later. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation is if you've got a good woman and you want to keep her, you really want the relationship with her, have some premarital counseling and then get into a marriage. If she's devoted to you, if she wants to be a wife to you, then that's the girl.
Yep.
I'm not telling you what to do.
No. She's definitely the one, but for me, it's just like I just don't want that change. Like,
Yeah,
females change. Like once that
like I
paperwork
said,
gets signed.
they start becoming a wife, or do they start becoming
Controlling.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference. Are you want to butt heads with her because she suddenly is taking more on herself, or is she actually going to be a wife to you? And you're still going to butt heads over things, but they're the steps that galvanize the foundation of your relationship for the future.
So what if you get married, and then down the line, say maybe you're growing and your partner's not into growing, and you guys' paths are just going in a different way? They just really are. Would you recommend?
Happens 100% of the time, and I have the solution.
Let's hear
it. Here's the metaphor for it. It's a dumb metaphor, but it's the best one I've ever seen. Back in the 70s, I hate admitting that, a guy planted 2 trees next to each other, and as the trees grew, he grafted the branches together, and he made a ladder tree out of it. But you could see that at certain points, one tree grew faster than the other one. And then the other one grew faster. But because they were connected, they stayed together. You're going to grow in directions you can't anticipate. That's the world. That's the world. But you have to reach out and reconnect. You have to reach out and make sure that you're connected as you continue to grow. Otherwise, you get so far apart, you turn around and look at the person and say, who are you? You're not the person I married.
So there's no circumstance where it's like probably best to just get a divorce.
There are circumstances like that. They're rare. Infidelity is one of the purposes that the Lord allowed for divorce. Physical or psychological abuse is another one. The protection of children is another one that's sometimes you have to protect children by getting out of that marriage. However, and insanity, of course, is one people never talk about. But we have so many mental problems today; it's an actual consideration. The thing is that most people, if they try it out, they've taken 5 steps into a marriage and like, well, this isn't working out. In the old days, people stayed married because they had to survive, and you got along with your in-laws not because you got along with them, but because you depended on each other for survival. Did you ever see Penn and Teller's bullshit show on
HBO?
On peace, world peace?
No.
It's absolutely worth watching because, again, they go strictly for the thing, and they figured that, you know what peace is? Let me tell you. Teller and I don't even like each other. We've been together, we worked together for years. We're not even really friends. We get along, but sometimes we don't get along. We don't even like each other that much. You know why we stay together? Because of the money. We like the money. We like this lifestyle. He said, economic interdependence is what keeps our relationship healthy. I know that if I go too far with him, I've just blown my paycheck. And doing it by myself, I'm not willing to take that risk. In the old days, you had multi-generational families. The men would go out and work. The women stayed home and took care of all the house and the kids together. And people depended on each other economically for survival. Now today, everybody wants to be out on their own at 19 and buying a car and buying a house and all these other things that they can't sustain or survive. And this is unfortunately what the people in higher levels in our society want. They want us to be slaves. Yeah. Work.
I feel that.
Yeah. And a marriage is an economy of many of these things. Mm-hmm. You do save resources by being married. That's the economic argument, obviously. But the point is that marriage is more than just cohabitation and a piece of paper, I assure you. And in the church, it is considered as such a sacred covenant that in our church, you don't even take vows. You say yes and no. That everything else the church tells you what it means.
Do you think it's possible to have a good relationship without that piece of paper that says you're married?
Well, you can always have a good relationship with somebody, but that's not the same thing as being married.
And maybe that role is even being played and like they are married, but they're not?
No.
I don't think so.
No. And that's why you have women that are willing to be married but not be wives.
All right. Well, I got sorry to switch subjects
No.
here. That was great. But
That's a deep rabbit hole. Of course,
yeah.
change the subject.
we'll get in. I mean, we'll have you on again, Father John. We'll talk about all that
generous,
stuff. It's gonna be
thanks.
good. And then this tonight we're doing. Well, it'll be yesterday at this point, but next week we're starting to serve the drinks in the room too. And in those drinks is this magnesium. Most people are deficient in. And then there's aminos, great for athletes. And then there's creatine. And it's going to be all mixed into this 24-ounce lemonade. And Dan Garner, who's our nutritionist, he's a nutrition expert. He's going to just real quick, he sent me a message on the benefits of those before or after training. Let's hear what he has to say.
Timbo, what's going on? Look, this creatine, amino acid, and magnesium drink, you gotta call it the 4 R's. This is the Red Hawk Refuel, Recover, and Rehydrate drink. You're knocking down all 3 at the same time. From a refueling perspective, we're talking about creatine. Creatine helps you produce energy at a faster rate, but it also helps you store more energy inside the muscle cell as well. Essentially, you're enhancing anaerobic ATP production to increase peak energy output, but also maintaining that output. Long story short, it essentially helps your guys be more explosive, but also maintain that explosiveness for a longer period of time than they otherwise would have, because it's working on both peak power and capacity of that anaerobic system. Now, with the amino acids, what we're doing is essentially starting the recovery process before the workout's even over. You are providing the body and the muscles with nutrients to prevent breakdown during an exercise event that would otherwise break them down, essentially creating less of a recovery demand post-training so that you recover faster and you're going to feel much better and you're going to be more prepared going into your next training session the next day or even that very day. And magnesium, it's what regulates the other electrolytes. So sodium causes muscular contraction, but potassium causes muscular relaxation. Yet magnesium is what determines intra and extracellular concentrations of both of those. So you could have optimal sodium and optimal potassium, and it won't really matter unless you have enough magnesium, because magnesium is the doorman that determines what gets in the muscle cell and what gets out. So between the 3 of these, you got refuel, recover, and rehydrate all knocked out. I would have this within 15 minutes before training, during training, or within 15 minutes after training.
And that's our nutritionist Dan Garner. He's the man. He helps so many high level athletes in the NHL and the UFC. Been working with him for years now. He's the man. And all those supplements are going to be the third party tested Thorne supplements. So I'm so excited to be able to serve those to my students, and I think they're gonna love the drink. So tonight we're testing it out, and then next week we'll be officially serving them, so you can come and get them before or after practice. So, what's your Instagram, Drakkar?
Just Drakkar Klose.
Drakkar Klose on Instagram. Follow him. He's got this fight coming up, and he's gonna beat on old Joe Selecki.
December 2nd, Austin, Texas.
Let's go, baby.
Awesome.
And then Father John, where can people follow you?
You can go to ArizonaOrthodox.com. That's my parish website. It has a ton of information on it. You can also, I have a personal blog, which is FatherJohnPeck.com, but it's I don't update it every day or anything. It's I've got plenty of other things I have to do. It's mostly moral and spiritual issues articles that have been put up by there. But I would recommend ArizonaOrthodox.com for content information, or if you want to find out where I'm at.
Make sure you go there and donate.
You're a good man.
Well, and patreon.com/Red Hawk Academy. That's where content's going all the time. They just redid the app so I can chat with everyone on there a lot easier. I'm doing my newsletter on there every week. And then I'm on Snapchat now too, Tim Welch MT. So hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next week. Love y'all.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.